Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today as I share a few more thoughts from the Bible. Now, as King David in the Bible found himself secure on his throne over Israel, he made a decision. I am going to build a temple to the Lord. So he goes and he tells this amazing idea to the prophet Nathan, and he also thinks it's a great idea. And he's like, just go ahead, go and do what you've planned. God is going to bless you in this. But that night, God speaks to Nathan and gives him a message for David. You are not the one who's going to build this for me. That job is going to fall to your son, Solomon. Interesting. So if we find ourselves in a situation like that, I think there are a few different ways that we can respond to it. We might find ourselves feeling a little bit bitter, but God, that was my idea. Why should somebody else get the credit for that? Why should somebody else get the thrill of seeing my vision come to life? We might simply just put the idea down. Well, fine. Okay, God, if that's what you want, if you say so, then I guess it's not my problem anymore. I'm just going to wash my hands of it. Somebody else can deal with all the details of the work to be involved in that situation. I give up on it completely. And depending on the situation, sometimes that kind of response is necessary. But I find what David does here really, really interesting because it's not either of those two reactions. He doesn't get angry or sad that this amazing idea he's had will be taken on by somebody else. He doesn't simply put it to one side, though, and forget all about it. This is what he says in 1 Chronicles chapter 22 and verse 5. David said, "My son Solomon is young and inexperienced, and the house to be built for the Lord should be of great magnificence and fame and splendor in the sight of all the nations. Therefore, I will make preparations for it." So David made extensive preparations before his death. And the Bible goes on and it talks a little bit about those preparations that David made for this temple. He gathered resources and craftspeople. He dedicated his own personal wealth to the cause. He noted down every idea that he had about how the temple should look and function. He drew pictures of his dreams for individual elements that would be found within it. That preparation the Bible talks about in just a few lines would have taken him years of his own life. This was not a small task that he set himself. He spent years preparing for a building that he would never even see. What an amazing response that was. David's son Solomon would only need to come in and use his father's plans and the resources already pooled to begin the work. He would stand on the shoulders of his father to reach far higher than he would have been able to on his own. And the Bible, it tells us about when Solomon built his own royal palace. It tells us that it took him twice as long to build the palace that he would live in than the temple of the Lord. And, I've always read that and always thought, oh, that's a little bit of a selfish thing on Solomon's part, isn't it? He gave more glory or more time to his own residence than to the temple of the living God. But actually, as I thought about it this time, I wonder if the building time was so much longer for the royal palace than for the temple, because Solomon had to do all that preparation work himself for the palace that his father David had done for the temple. I don't know, that's another discussion, but what's amazing to me is that David was absolutely committed to building for the future, not only for his own life. I think we can be so conditioned to looking after self first that we forget about all of the people who will come after us. David had followed God's instructions throughout his life. He had won battle after battle. And even in this situation, we don't read that God actually asked him to do this preparation. That was completely up to him. He could justifiably have earned himself a bit of a quiet retirement at this point in his life. Instead, he chooses to invest substantially into the man who was coming after him. We should always be thinking beyond our own lives into what we can do to strengthen the coming generations. It might be something practical like this, preparing the ground for something bigger than what we can imagine or something bigger than we can achieve in our own lifetime. It might be investing financially into a project that we might not even quite understand, but which will bring glory to God in a new generation. It may be encouraging somebody, telling them that their gifts and their ideas have merit and can be used for God's glory. It may be committing to pray every day for a young man or woman who is involved in something that seems so much bigger than they can handle. Build for the future, not only for your own future, but for the future of the generations to follow. So it is never, ever, ever too late to be used by God. Because even if you don't have the physical strength right now to do the work that you once did, you can still encourage the next generation. You can still train them and prepare the way for them. And who knows what incredible thing you might be building by thinking beyond your own life. Thank you so much for joining me here again today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.